As the movie begins, we hear a narration of legends of dragons of ancient Britannia. Ages ago, during the reign of King Gareth, Drago raised 7 dragons that left Britannia for different lands. Among the 7, one was female named Siveth, who traveled to the war-torn kingdom of Wallachia. The kingdom and its ruler, King Razvan, initially welcomed Siveth. However, after he is wounded in battle, Siveth refused to share her heart with him, so the king exiled her, calling her a traitor. The scene then shifts to 20 or 30 years later. In the present time, we are introduced to Lucas, a young farmer who lives with his parents. One day, while he is enjoying his time alone in the fields, he notices screams coming from his house and rushes to check. To his horror, he sees 4 savage raiders inside the house, holding his parents captive. These raiders, namely the bear, the wolf, the snake, and the scorpion, mercilessly kill his parents and burn the house afterward. Meanwhile, Lucas watches this entire horror unfold from the stable, feeling helpless. After losing his parents and house to them, Lucas is burdened with grief. Then, he vows to seek revenge for his loss as he leaves on a quest. Next, we see Lucas arriving in the city in hopes of seeking help where King Razvan rules. However, he is immediately turned down by the king's officials, even though he informs them about the savage raiders. Disappointed by the rejection from the king, Lucas sells his remaining cattle to collect money to hire sellswords for his mission. On the way, he catches a glimpse of a beautiful girl named Oana, whom he likes very much. Later, he arrives in a tavern searching for hunters. There, he is approached by a swashbuckling mercenary named Darius, offering his service to hunt the murderers. However, Darius is not liked by the other hunters present there, who think he is trying to steal their client. As a result, a brawl breaks out between Darius and another mercenary group, forcing Lucas to flee from there. Later that night, Lucas enters a blacksmith workshop through a window and decides to spend the night there. When he wakes up the next morning, he meets the owner of the workshop and offers his lands to him in exchange for a sword. At first, the blacksmith is not willing to give away any of his swords, but when Lucas opens up about his recent tragedy, he gives him a sword and also advises him to get help from the legendary dragon Siveth. After receiving all of the information that he needed, Lucas heads off to find the dragon, carrying a bag of crop seeds. On his way, he meets several people, but no one seems to help him find the way to reach the destination. Still, Lucas doesn't lose hope and travels deep into the countryside in search of Siveth. Eventually, his journey brings him inside a cave where the dragon is supposedly residing. Finally, the dragon appears before Lucas, and he cannot believe his eyes that he is in the presence of a real living dragon. Without wasting a second, Lucas presents his case in front of Siveth and asks him to track the 4 murderers by offering her a bag of crop seeds as payment. However, after realizing that Lucas wants vengeance instead of justice, Siveth refuses to help. This leaves Lucas enraged as he leaves the place, deciding to complete his quest of killing the murderers of his parents all by himself. The next day, Lucas finds a horse with a saddle and supplies to aid him in his journey. While stopping for a while, Darius, who had been following him all this time, reveals himself to Lucas. Once again, Darius offers his services to Lucas, who accepts it this time, since he's got no options left. Then Lucas reveals to Darius that the 4 murderers went in different locations. Therefore, they need to pursue them one by one. Since they're already on their path towards the north, they decide to go after the bear, who is going to find recruits for their gang. Shortly after they begin their journey, Darius reveals that he was also turned down by the dragon, just like Lucas. Darius further reveals that when he was a child, his parents were killed in a road accident caused by a speeding wagon. However, when he sought the dragon's help, he got nothing but disappointment. From there, they go to a small training area sort of place, where Darius teaches Lucas how to fight. Later, we learn that Darius has the ability to talk to animals, having previously spoken to a horse, and now worms. Even though Lucas finds this strange, he decides to keep shut about it, after Darius suggests that the worms have supposedly revealed the location of the bear. While waiting for the bear and his band of raiders, Lucas asks Darius about the tale of Siveth and why everyone calls her a traitor. Darius then explains that a long time ago, when border disputes and war were raging all over the nation, King Razvan sought help from Siveth to restore peace. Unfortunately, King Razvan was gravely injured in the battle, and Siveth was asked to save his life by sharing a piece of her heart just as she promised earlier. However, in their greatest hour of need, she refused to help, and ever since that day, everyone shuns her as a traitor to the kingdom. No sooner has Darius finished this tale, they discover that Seveth has traveled with them, disguised as Lucas's horse. Seveth then explains that female dragons can take the form of any animal, but cannot communicate in that form. Lucas is delighted that Seveth has come all this way to help him, unlike Darius, who absolutely hates her presence. As a result, Darius engages in a heated argument with Seveth, forcing Lucas to choose between him and a dragon. As expected, Lucas chooses Seveth as Darius leaves the place on his horse. This leaves Lucas and Seveth to face the bear and his band of raiders alone. After a while, the bear and his band of raiders find Lucas and starts chasing him to feast on him. Luckily, the dragon appears from behind and tries to scare away the savages. Later, while trying to kill Lucas during the fight, the bear falls to his death by getting his head crushed. This incident pleases Lucas very much, but not Seveth, as she hates violence and death of any form. Next, Lucas points out that they should now go after the wolf, who is now headed west with his pack. Soon, they begin their journey towards the next target, making several stops on the way as Lucas improves his sword skills. One night, after they set up a campfire to sleep, Lucas opens up about his family. He believes that only by getting revenge on the murderers, he will be able to get justice for his parents. On the contrary, Seveth tries to convince Lucas to drop his idea of revenge, but he is not ready to listen. The next day, Lucas and Seveth are suddenly attacked by the wolf and his pack, but Seveth manages to put each one of them down before finally pinning the wolf down. Shortly after, Lucas threatens to kill him, but Seveth says the wolf is more valuable alive. As a result, they take him captive when he agrees to lead them to the snake and scorpion. As per their plan, they move towards their next target, the snake, guided by the wolf. The wolf keeps his word, and they arrive at their destination. Once they reach the snake's den, Seveth formulates a plan to catch their target. Moments later, they discover that Darius has blundered into an ambush, breaking out a fight between the raiders and the good guys. Amidst the ongoing chaos, the wolf manages to escape after losing an arm to Seveth's ice breath. Despite all of this, they capture the snake, and also, Seveth mistakenly injures Darius, which in turn hurts her. Confused about what just happened, Lucas asks for an explanation. Darius then explains that during the accident that killed his parents, he was gravely injured as well. However, Seveth found him in critical condition and gave half of her heart to Darius to save him, thus creating a lifelong bond between them. Even though Darius hates her for not helping him in getting revenge for his parents, Darius also reveals that this is the very reason why he is able to communicate with animals. Later that night, after questioning the snake about the scorpion, Lucas gets ready to kill her. Meanwhile, Seveth tries her best to convince him otherwise. She tells Lucas to spare her and take her back to town to face justice, while Darius says to kill the raider. Seveth explains the exact events of his parents' death and why she shared her heart with him. When Darius was a child, the king started a war to bolster his popularity and distract people from his corrupt dealings. Later, the king got wounded in battle, while Seveth tried to prove his corruption. During his return home, the king had his cart driver run Darius' parents off the road, ultimately killing them. Seveth then shared her heart with Darius to save him, leading to her refusal to help Razvan and her banishment. However, she kept the truth from Darius to protect him, as he would have inevitably gotten himself killed seeking revenge from the king. At last, Darius and Lucas reluctantly agreed to spare the snake, having discovered the raiders were receiving messages. The next day, the group arrives in the town while keeping the snake captive. Darius then imprisons the snake and hands it over to the town's jailer to attend to her wounds. Later that night, with Seveth's help, Lucas flirts with Oana, the town healer, whom he met once earlier. Meanwhile, Darius is seen inside a tavern, decoding the messages found in the snake's hideout. After trying for a while, he successfully manages to decode the message and learns that King Razvan is behind the raiders' attacks. He ordered them to kill his subjects to prevent starvation because he did not prepare for food shortages. Moments later, the king arrives at the scene with his soldiers and detains Darius. The king warns him not to get in his way before ordering his soldiers to beat him up badly. Also, the soldiers take away his coins, along with the messages that proved that their king is a traitor. In the next scene, we see that the scorpion has returned for the snake. He brutally poisons Oana's father, the town's jailer, and frees the snake. On the other hand, Darius reveals his recent discovery of the king's treachery to Seveth and Lucas. They are determined to get those papers back so that they can reveal the true intentions of the king in front of the citizens. Moments later, they hear people nearby screaming, only to discover that the jailer's house has been ablaze by the scorpion and the snake to cover their escape. Immediately, Seveth uses her ice breath to extinguish the flames and regroups with Darius and Lucas, enraged with what just happened. Lucas is convinced that he needs to stop the raiders at any cost. However, Seveth suggests that they need to retrieve the raiders' orders from the king's guards who took them. As a result, they split up and go on different paths. On one side, Seveth uses her shapeshifting to try to reclaim the evidence. Meanwhile, Lucas and Darius pursue the snake and the scorpion, wandering into an ambush. During the fight, the scorpion poisons Lucas, and the snake further wounds him in battle. Darius also gets injured, forcing Seveth to abandon her mission to save Lucas and Darius after seeing them in trouble through their bond. Eventually, Darius kills the scorpion by stabbing an arrow in his neck, and Seveth kills the snake. Lucas apologizes for letting revenge darken his heart. While he lies there, gravely wounded, Darius and Seveth also reconcile, and he begs her to save Lucas. After that, Seveth takes Lucas to the monastery that raised Darius. Weeks pass by, and Lucas recovers with Oanna's help. Some days later, Razvan and a crowd of townsfolk confront Lucas and Seveth. The king orders Lucas to be surrendered for crimes he did not commit, and orders Seveth to resume her exile. However, Seveth refuses and calls Razvan out for his treason. At first, the king is too confident that the people will never believe her. However, Darius and the recaptured wolf appear moments later, and the wolf also confesses about Razvan's crimes. Furthermore, Seveth offers her protection to anyone else willing to speak up. As a result, more people come forward from the king's guards and council to confess to Razvan's corruption. This ultimately leads to the king and the wolf's imprisonment. In the time that follows, Seveth is welcomed back into society and shares the crop seed she saved to end Razvan's famines. Lucas rebuilds his home, beginning a relationship with Oanna. Now recognized by the kingdom and bonded with Seveth, Darius lives a happy life among the people. In the end, Darius reflects on Seveth's teachings, acknowledged that she showed him and Lucas the path to happiness, friendship, and love.